Good evening, everybody. Good evening to you all. Can you all hear me? Can I have some good, quick responses? Good evening, Tulsi. Good evening, Rahul. Okay, I see very few people have joined yet. But this is a question answer discussion. So we'll be doing the questions that were asked in your weekly test, as well as some other questions from CSIR papers. Good evening, Damini. Good evening, Surender. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about part one of the top unit 11, that is evolution and behavior. So the first subunit of evolution is about the theories of evolution, and that is what we are going to talk about. That is what, like, we are going to take up the questions from there which are usually asked. So the different topics that we covered in this under this topic was the different theories that were given for evolution, like the Lamarck's theory, Darwin's theory, then theory of mutation, then Mendelian principles, and how they all helped in shaping the theory of modern synthesis, which is the most acceptable and modern theory of evolution. Yeah, Babita, please ask your query. Along with that, we have here also talked about what is evolution or what does evolution do, and also we have talked about what does evolution not do. Okay, and then we have talked about natural selection. We have talked about the different ways natural selection can work. We also see the different models of evolution. So based on that, all the questions that have been asked in the previous CSI paper, or some good questions also, that is what we are going to discuss in today's class. Yes, Babita, please ask your question. I'm waiting for you. So I see more people joining now. Good evening, everyone. Can a forensic science student become a biotechnologist? Are you like forensic science? You are doing forensic science in what? Are you doing pursuing forensic science in masters? So see, if it is the other way around, then like a biotechnologist can for sure become a forensic science student in post graduation. If you're talking about you're doing your post graduation in forensic science and then you want to go for research in biotechnology, yes, of course you can do that, but then you have to clear this national level exams. Okay, so once you do that, because as far as CSIR exam is considered, so all streams of biosciences are applicable. If you're going for DBT or other exams, other PhD exams, so then you have to look for the criteria and see whether forensic science is allowed there or not. Okay, so you just have to look at the is forensic science good field after biotechnology bachelor's? Yes, definitely it is quite a good field, forensic science, but then you have to think about what you want to do in the career. Okay, because when you are going so much specific, right, because forensic science is definitely a very specific field of biotechnology, so your options then becomes very narrow. So you have to be very sure about what all universities that you want to apply, what all institutes are there that will give you research opportunities or work opportunities, and then you should be clear like what should be the marks and what should be the eligibility there to pursue the higher studies, and then you should be clear that this all those criterias you are covering. Okay, otherwise, because it is such a narrow and such a specific field, that otherwise it will be difficult for you to diverge from there. I hope you understood it, Ananya. Yes, I know forensic science, it sounds very interesting, right? And that's why people get interested in that. But then again, if you're choosing it for a career, definitely it's a very good field. But then you have to be sure about what all career scopes and opportunities are there. All right, so let's start this question discussion now. Okay, so very first question. So I would like your active participation, everyone. Please don't hesitate to put up your answer here in the chat box. I'll have a look all there as well, and I will explain for sure. And any queries, any questions you have, do not hesitate to put it across to me. So examples of antibiotic resistance highlight important features of natural selection. Which of the following statement is not true? Now, this is a statement-based question, which are nowadays very much asked in CSIR exam. So here you have to identify the statement which is not true. Okay, so basically you have to identify which statement is false about evolution. Okay, so this is very important, guys. So when this kind of questions come, not true or true, so it should be completely clear to you what has been asked. Okay, so here you have to identify the statement which is not true. So option one, evolution by natural selection is progressive. It makes individuals better. Second, natural selection acts on individual, but it's the population that change with time. Then natural selection does not cause genetic changes in individuals. And natural selection acts on phenotype. So what do you guys think will be the answer? Okay, I'm getting some answers, but no, sorry, Babita, that's not correct. Rahul, correct. Krishna, correct. Tulsi, correct. No. Richa, Yusra, Avneet, no. Kajal, correct. So the statement is asking is what is not true. Okay. So the statement which is not true is that natural selection, it makes individual better. Okay. So that is a big myth about natural selection, and we have discussed in the class in the myths of natural selection, that natural selection does not work, or it is not goal oriented. So it is not that natural selection works with a goal in its mind. Okay, so it just responds to how the environment is changing, and upon that, which feature will help the individual survive better or perform better in the competition. That is the sole motive of natural selection. It is not goal oriented. It is natural selection is not goal oriented, and it has no goal of making the individual better or worse. It just wants to make the individual or the population fitter for the fitter in the environment. Okay, now if the environment changes, then the definition of who is fit or who is better fit may also change. Okay, so the answer here will be option one, that evolution by natural selection is progressive, it makes individual better. So that is absolutely a wrong statement. And if you see the previous year question papers, question has been asked regarding this. Question has also been asked in the same direction. Okay, which statement is not true? So it says that it is goal oriented. Natural selection is goal oriented. That will also be a wrong statement. Okay, so these are the myths about natural selection, that it makes the individual better, it is goal oriented. So they are all myths. Okay, these are not true about natural selection. Is it understood, everyone? Richa, Avneet, Babita, Ananya. Okay. Moving on, next question. What happens to the ancestral species in anagenesis? So, for this, you have to be very clear with this term. What is anagenesis? So, these are two different ways in which evolution can happen: anagenesis and cladogenesis. Cladogenesis talks about branching, okay, where the ancestor species is there. So, if this is the ancestor, so it will accumulate change and then it will diversify into two different species, species 1 and species 2. So that will be cladogenesis, because clados means branching. Now what is anagenesis? Anagenesis is something like this, okay, where there is a ancestor which is keep on accumulating changes, okay, and it changes to a new species, that is B. Now the question is, what happens to the ancestral species? So what happens to this ancestor? Okay, so answer will be that the newly evolved species completely overrides the ancestral species, causing it to go extinct. Okay, so in case of anagenesis, what happens? The ancestral species change, it goes extinct completely. It keeps on accumulating so many changes that it now evolves into a new descendant species completely without any branching. That is why it is anagenesis, and the ancestral species, it will go extinct. All right. Okay, so before we move ahead, a quick announcement about the Watson Impact Scholarship provided by Biotechnica, which we are calling it the Y Scholarship. So this, in this scholarship, you are not only getting 100% scholarship, there is chance of getting 90%, 80%, 50%, or even 25% scholarship, depending on how how, what is your vision, and like you just have to uh, talk to us. Okay, you have to call in this toll free numbers, and please book the slots for the scholarship, and you will get this discount. And in this discounted rate, you are going to get the classes for gate as well as net. You will get workshops, you will get all the study material, okay, along with the different revisions tools. So study material in the form of concept notes, as well as the revision tools, okay, and along with that you will also get an access to all the mentorship sessions, okay, and plus there will be internships also. Like there are so many, I'm just highlighting some of the things, some of the major things which are included with the scholarship. But trust me, there are many many more advantages and things that you will get with your scholarship at a discounted rate with Biotechnica. So please, if you are looking for any assistance for your preparation, any assistance for upgrading your resume, please contact Biotechnica in the toll free number, and you will get all of this in a very discounted rate. Okay, all right, so let's move on. Next question. Creationism is rejected by evolutionary biologists because. So, first of all, we have to understand what is creationism. Yes, can anyone tell me what is creationism? What kind of theory is that? Yes. Have you heard about this theory of creationism? Yeah. Guys, first you tell me what is creationism? No? Yes, Ananya, you are correct. Rahul, you are correct. Okay. So creationism says that some supernatural power has created all the life forms on the world. Okay. So whatever life forms that we see in the on the earth, okay, whether those are tiny bacteria or the invertebrates or even the humans, each and every life form on earth, from simplest to most complex, tiniest to hugest, every life form has been created by some supernatural power. Okay, so that is what creationism says. Now, creationism is rejected by evolutionary biologists. Why? For sure, it is rejected. But the question is why? Yeah, Rahul, Suresh, absolutely correct. Yeah, Surendra, your answer is also right. Anyone else? No, Kirtana, Polaris, no. Krishna, correct. Yes, come on, let's make the session interactive. Ah, yes, Kirtana, now you are right. Prachi, no. Okay, so so I told you already what is creationism. Now, why creationism is rejected? See, creationism says that whatever life forms are there on the earth, in that same form only they have been made by God. Okay, now if that happens, then can we explain the change that the life form goes in response to the changing environment? See, cactus, it was not born like a cactus, right? So earlier it must be a normal plant only. But when the environment changed, when the water became scarce, the temperature rose in those regions, then the plant changed themselves, right? And whoever modified them, they were better survived. So they shrink their leaves to form the thorns so that the area of transpiration reduces. They made thicker leaves so that they can conserve more water. Their roots became long so that take up water deep down from the ground. Right. So, what are these features? These are adaptations. So, if we say that God has created all the life form in the world on earth in the same form that we see it now, then how are we going to explain the change that is happening in them in response to the environment and time? Right? That means creationism cannot explain adaptation. All right. So, in which ground creationism is rejected? That it offers no explanation about origin of adaptation. Okay, that is the main scientific reason why creationism has been rejected. Understood, everybody? Okay, next. According to which evolutionary theory, there are long periods without significant evolutionary changes, interrupted by short periods of rapid evolution. According to which evolutionary theory? Okay, there are long periods without significant evolutionary changes, interrupted by short periods of rapid evolution. Absolutely correct, Kirtana, Kajal, Rahul. So answer here will be punctuated equilibrium. Yeah, everyone is correct. Excellent. Yes. So what does this punctuated equilibrium say? So what is punctuation? What is punctuation? In English we use punctuations, right? What are they? What all are called punctuation? Ananya, that's okay. You don't have to know about that to answer this question. Okay, see, there are two ways of answering question. One way is definitely can be the selective elimination, but the other way, the best way is when you know the answer already. Okay, so there are two different theories on how evolution is happening or how evolution can happen. So that is punctuated equilibrium, and another one is gradualism. Okay, these are only two different ways. Okay. Yes, that's correct, Rahul. Comma, dot, question marks. So these are punctuations, right? Now, what are these punctuations? They are like giving some small gaps, right? Or some disrupt in the sentence, okay? Or break it down into small parts or subparts, right? So, what is punctuated equilibrium says that ideally the evolution it has long periods where there is no change at all. Okay, so there are long period where there is no change happening, and suddenly there will be a huge change. Okay, and that sudden huge change will be because of mutation. All right, but this model where there's a long time where there is no change or very little changes there, and suddenly a huge change happens and that drastically changes the species, giving rise to new descendant species. So that is what is the theory of, or the model. This model itself is called as the punctuated equilibrium. Okay, so just a comparison of punctuated equilibrium and gradualism. So gradualism, Darwin was in support of gradualism, which says that the species they will keep on accumulating changes according to the environment, okay, slowly. So and evolution is a continuous and a very slow process. So as you can see, the orange butterfly, it kept on accumulating changes, and finally it diversified. One became darker red, one became lighter orange, right? And that is how finally this one became white, this one became maroon color or dark red color. Okay, so that is gradualism. Slowly it changed over time. But punctuated equilibrium says that there is no slow change. There will be long time where there is no change. Okay, this is a long time where there is no change, and suddenly there will be a change. Okay, where a new species will arrive, and then again there will be a long period with no change. Okay, and that is what is punctuated equilibrium. So if we draw a phylogenetic tree for punctuated equilibrium, so this is how the phylogenetic tree will look. Okay, is it understood, everybody? The answer is punctuated equilibrium. Next, in pre-industrial period in England, peppered moths had light coloration, which effectively camouflaged them against the light-colored trees and lichens. During Industrial Revolution, many lichens dies out and trees became blackened by soot from factories. And interestingly, dark-colored moths were predominantly seen. This happened due to. So this is the concept of industrial melanism that it is talking about. That before industrialization, the trees were light colored, and during industrial revolution the lichens died, trees became blackened, and at that time dark colored moths were predominantly seen. What happens due? Yes, absolutely. This happened due to the natural selection of dark colored moths, which were initially present in fewer numbers. Okay, so it does not happen that because of industrial revolution the dark colored moth was produced. Okay, or the chemicals produced in the factories, they changed the color of the moth. The dark colored moths, they were already existent before the revolution also. Okay, but at that time they were not so well camouflaged because the trees were light in color. So in this condition, the light colored moths were better camouflaged, so they survived because they were able to escape the predators. So they were better fitted in that way. Okay, whereas at the after industrial revolution, the trees became black in color, and in that condition, the dark colored moths, they were having better camouflage. Okay, whereas the light colored moths, they were getting easily spotted by the predators, and that's why they were dying. Okay, so this is a very good example about how environment changes, and with the change of the environment, the character which was making the individual fitter before may become the same character because of which the individual is losing its fitness. Okay, is it understood, everyone? So later, after industrial revolution, because the dark colored moths, they were better camouflage, so they were present predominantly. Okay, whereas the light colored moths, their amount decreased. Yes, all of you have given the correct answer. Excellent. Okay, next question. Within 6 months of effectively using methicillin to treat uh, Staphylococcus aureus infections in a community, all new infections were it was found that all new infections were caused by MRSA. MRSA stands for methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. How can this result best be explained? So what it is saying, that you have used 6 months. Okay, 6 months we have used methicillin, which is antibiotic that is used to kill the Staphylococcus aureus infection. So after using this methicillin for 6 months successfully, suddenly new infections were caused, and this time the infection was caused by methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA strain. So how can you explain this result? Kaf Khan, absolutely correct. Tulsi, yes, you're right. Apart from that, I'm sorry, you guys have got the wrong answer. So think about it again. Think. So relate it with the evolution theories that we have talked about. Yes, Hina, correct. So here the answer will be that some drug resistant bacteria were present at the start of this treatment and natural selection increased their frequency. Remember, one more myth about natural selection is that natural selection causes variation. This is a big myth. What is the fact? The fact is that natural selection does not cause variation. Variation already exists in the population. Natural selection only help to identify or to select the variation that helps the individual survive and perform better. Okay, so it's not that so methicillin, use of methicillin is the natural selection that is happening. Okay, so use of methicillin will not cause any mutation in the individual to produce or to make them methicillin resistant. Okay, so what will happen, that variation already was there in the population, so okay, or the variation arised later. Okay, and because of that there were strains which some bacteria were there which were mutant to which were resistant to methicillin. Okay, now the ones which were resistant to methicillin, when we kept on using methicillin again and again, so that was giving them a selective advantage because they were resistant, so they were able to grow, they were able to survive, they were able to produce more offsprings, and they were passing their methicillin resistant property to all their offsprings. Okay, and in turn they all were surviving better, whereas the methicillin susceptible strains, they were dying because continuously we were adding methicillin. Okay, so because the MRSA strain, they got the selective advantage. Okay, so how can we explain this outcome? That some drug resistant bacteria were already present in the start of the treatment, and natural selection merely increased their frequency. Understood, everybody? Damini, Suresh, Surender, Richa, Rahul, did you all understand? Kajal? Okay, so natural selection cannot cause variation. Variation already exists. Natural selection only helps in selecting the most useful variation. Okay. Now moving on. Column A lists names of evolutionary biologists and column B lists description of evolutionary mechanisms proposed by them in random order. So we have to match the following. Okay. Now this is also one kind of question which is very frequently asked in CSIR papers, that match the following kind of questions. Okay. So there are two types of questions. Actually, I will say three types of questions which are very frequently asked. One is graph based, where you have to have the idea of how to read a graph. Then there are questions which are matching kind of like this. Okay, there will be two columns and you have to match. And the third time will be the statement based, and you have to identify either a combination or a single statement that is true or false. Okay, so these are the three type of questions which are very frequently asked in the paper. Now, if we see the statement based, the matching kind of questions, okay, so these are the most simplest. Okay, now why am I telling you? Because usually in this matching kind of questions, you will notice that there will be at least 4 or 5 things that you have to match, right? Now, in those 4 or 5 things, even if you are able to match not one, two or three options also correctly, the rest of that will follow. You just have to look for it in the option. Okay, so there is no need of matching all the 5 things correctly. If you do 2 or 3 also correctly, very truly, very surely you will get your answer. Okay, even without knowing about the rest of the things which I mentioned. All right, so that's why we always suggest that take up this matching kind of questions first in the question paper. So you browse through the question paper, select this matching kind of questions and do them first. Okay, so they are the most scoring questions right now. All right, now coming back to this question here. So you have column A and column B. So column A has name of some evolutionary biologist, and column B is the description of evolutionary mechanism that was proposed by them. Okay. All right, Ananya, that's correct. Yeah, most of you have given, yeah, all of you have given the correct answer. Excellent. Richa, Sudesh, Rahul, Kirtanas, and so many others are. Yes, absolutely right. So, Jean Baptiste Lamarck. What theory? Lamarck's theory. Lamarck's theory talks about use or disuse or inheritance of acquired characters. So, it is written here. So, A with 2. Now, Charles Darwin. Darwin's theory of evolution is again very popular theory, and Darwin's theory of evolution talks about natural selection. Now, do we see natural selection anywhere here? No. Now, what is the other concept of Darwin's theory? The other thing is about the differential reproduction of genotypes. That is, not every individual will produce same number of offsprings. Every individual has the potential to produce large number of offsprings, but they will end up producing very few because of the limiting factors that exist in the environment. So Charles Darwin theory of natural selection, or it is the differential reproduction of genotypes. Okay, now in the same place, instead of Darwin, it might be Wallace also written, and one time question did come where instead of Darwin it was Wallace written. Okay, so you have to remember that Darwin's theory of natural selection was not published by Darwin alone. It was a joint publication, although they did their study separately, but the publication of natural theory of natural selection came as a joint venture of Charles Darwin and Alfred Wallace. Okay, next is Moto Kimura. Moto Kimura is famous for the theory of neutral selection. Okay, so variation at the molecular level is selectively neutral. This theory is given by Moto Kimura. It is also called as the neutral theory of evolution. Now, what does this theory say? So it says it is not disregarding any of the theory. Okay, so it is not saying that Darwin's theory is wrong. Okay, he is saying that fine, natural selection works, and because of natural selection, change will happen in the population. But at the same time, he also says that not all changes that are happening in the genome are either advantageous or disadvantageous. There are large number of changes which are continuously happening in the genome, which are selectively neutral, which does not give individual any benefit. At the same time, it does not give individual any disadvantage. Okay. Now the question comes is how to select, or how evolution selects which of this neutral selection should pass on. So he said that, Moto Kimura, he said that the natural selection can work on this neutral variations, and in that case the variation will go in any random direction. It is not that it will only go in one direction, it can go in any random direction. Okay, so Moto Kimura proposed the theory, neutral theory of evolution, which talks about variation at the molecular level is selectively neutral. Okay, then Seawall Wright, so Seawall Wright talks about that it is the changes in allele frequency is due to random genetic drift. All right, so here the answer is A2, B3, C1 and D4. So answer will be option 2. Next question. An evolutionist was working to find out how did the tiger get its stripes. She finally reaches to the following conclusion. A long time ago, there was a lot of tiger-like animals, but without stripes. One time, a mutation occurred in few of the animals, causing a huge change. They were born with stripes. This was so helpful to survival that out of the whole population, none or almost none of those with stripes died of hunger. They lived to reproduce, and their striped offsprings also did very well. Over only a few generations, the whole population was born striped. This explanation shows which pattern of evolution. Yes, Rahul, correct. Surinder, absolutely right. Kirtana, correct. Kajal, no. Read the description. Read the evolutionist description. Okay. Now, one more thing you have to understand here is this is not the actual situation. This is a hypothesis that is given here. No, Ananya, that's not right. Apart from that, yeah, Kaf, Tulsi, Damini, Krishna, Kantimati, Pravalika, correct. So, which explanation? So, this explanation shows which pattern of evolution. So, just a few minutes back only, I told you there are two different models of evolution, or two different patterns of evolution. One is punctuated equilibrium, and another one is gradualism. So punctuated equilibrium says that there will be long evolutionary time without any change, and suddenly a very rapid change will happen, and the species will be formed. Okay, and again it will be followed by a long time without any change. Now, gradualism says that the evolution is a continuous process, slowly but for sure changes are happening in the populations, and they are changing or they are evolving. Okay, so, according to the information that is given here, the description, what it says that there were lot like tiger-like animals without any stripes. Okay, but one day a mutation occurred, and because of that, few animals were born, causing a huge change. They were born with stripes. Okay, now this was so helpful to survive that very quickly, okay, within a very short duration or within a very short number of generation, all the striped animals died. Okay, because they were at extreme selective disadvantage, whereas all the non-striped individuals died, and all the individuals with stripes survived, and they reproduced, and they passed it the same character to all their offsprings. Okay, so what can be the explanation here? So this explanation is talking about punctuated equilibrium. because there was a long time when there was no change, and suddenly a change happened and created some striped animals. Okay, now those striped animals, they were surviving better, and because of that, the non-striped individuals, they died very soon. So it is a punctuated equilibrium. Right. Now, have you people heard that news that in some of the tiger reserves in India, along with some cases in abroad as well, some tigers were found with merged black stripes. Like now they are becoming the black, the stripes have become merged with each other, so they are more black compared to black and yellow stripes. Okay, Ananya, you're saying, isn't the change gradual here because tribes come gradually? No, see, the thing is, what is Ananya, that we do not know which is the correct model of evolution. Okay, so there are different ways of explaining the process of evolution. Actually, nobody saw, right, what happened or how a particular species evolved. So we can only create our hypothesis by matching it with the ancestor species, and also we can look for it in the in the fossil evidences. Right. Now, there can be two explanation of how tigers got striped. One explanation will be that there were some individuals which were having the variation of stripes. Okay. Now, that helped them, that made them survive better compared to the non-stripes one. And slowly it became, the entire population became striped. Okay. So that is gradualism, that slowly change happened in the population. But when we talk about punctuated equilibrium, what it says that there will be a rapid period, short but rapid period, where evolution will happen very fast. Okay, so that is why in this case, which says that suddenly because of a mutation, a striped variety came. Now those striped varieties survived, and all the non-striped varieties died. Okay, very fast, and that will be an example of punctuated equilibrium. Do you follow, Ananya? So, which one is correct, which one is wrong? We are not going in that. We are just talking about which model of evolution is getting explained here. Okay. So, usually, that is what I'm saying, that the scientists, they will collect all the evidences about the evolution of certain species, and then they will try to make the story and see whether it is they evolved, that particular species evolved by gradualism or by punctuated equilibrium. Okay, so usually the species which have taken a long time of evolution, okay, so they are said, or they are found to follow the pattern of gradualism, whereas those species which have got a very young history, okay, they have they have arise very quickly or in a very short duration of time, so that those species are considered to be have evolved by this pattern, punctuated equilibrium. Is that clear, Ananya? Okay. Next question. Upper forelimbs of humans and bats are fairly similar skeletal structures, whereas corresponding bones in whales have very different shapes and proportions. However, genetic data suggests that all three kinds of organisms diverged from a common ancestor at about the same time. Which of the following is most likely explanation for this data? So what is it saying? That there was a common ancestor. I'm just writing as CA. Now that common ancestor, it diverged into three groups, okay, almost at the same time. Okay, and what are these three groups? Humans, sorry, whales, bats, and humans. Okay, now how do we say that? But because of the genetic data. Okay, now it's saying that the upper forelimbs of humans and bats, they have very similar skeletal structure. Now whales also have the same number of bones, but the proportions of each of the bones in whale is completely different from that of humans and bats. Okay, so question is, which of the following is most likely explanation for this data? Oh my god, I'm sorry guys, all of you are giving the wrong answer. So you people are saying that natural selection. No, no, no. Oh, I'm so sorry. No. Yes, everybody is correct. Whoever has given the answer C is correct. The natural selection in an aquatic environment resulted in significant changes in whale fold-limb anatomy. Okay, and see what actually happens is that this is how the limb structure looks. Okay, so you can see the bones are color coded. Okay, so the same color bones only are there in whale, bat and humans, but the proportion of that is very much off. Okay, so here it is very long. Okay, whereas this where it is very small. Same, the humerus is also quite small in whale, whereas the phalanges, okay, the bones which are making the phalanges, they are pretty long in whale as compared to humans and bats. Okay, so why this changes happened? Okay, all right, so this change, or how can we explain this change, is because the whale, they moved on to the water. Okay, now they were living in a very different ecosystem compared to bats and humans, and because of that, the aquatic environment, it caused significant changes in the whale fold limb. Okay, so that now the fold limb can be used as a flipper, which will make the whale more convenient for swimming, more fitter for the existing environment. Is it clear? Okay. All right, guys. So before we move on to the next question, how are you people thinking? Like, is this question discussions helpful? Are you finding them helpful? Have you seen this kind of questions before? Yes. Okay, that's excellent. Damini, Arnab, Tulsi, Kajal, you're finding it helpful. Good, good, good. So keep attending these sessions, guys. So keep attending this kind of sessions, okay? And yes, of course, you can give us your likes and subscriptions for sure. Okay. So what do we have next question? Galapagos finches were an important clue to Darwin's thinking about the origin of species. These finches are believed to have descended from a single ancestral species that colonized the Galapagos archipelago, America, over a short period of time. Okay. So the Galapagos finches differ in their beak shape and size. Different species feed on seeds that vary in size and hardness. Which of the following is the most likely explanation for these patterns? All right, guys. Yeah, Richa, I will try to ask 15 questions. I can try to ask 20 questions also, but then we have only 1 hour session, right? So don't worry. Again, in the next session, when I come, again, I'll bring the evolution related questions. The topic will already be told to you, will be addressed in the advertisement, and also all teachers, they will come. They will bring questions from their own topic. Okay, so sometimes happens now that some questions, they become very long, or the numerical kind of question where we have to solve and do. So in those cases, covering 15 questions in 1 hour will be difficult. Okay, so in that way you will just get the answer, you will not understand the concept of the question, and which is something we don't want. We want you all to understand the concept of a question, so that if a related thing is asked with some different example, with some twisted words, you should not get confused, you should be able to answer them. Okay, because right now we are not in school or college where a sample set of question is given and from there only it will ask. CSIR can ask you from anywhere, right? So it becomes very, very important that you understand the underlying concept. That's why we are focusing more on the concept, not on individual questions. Yes, yes, best rocking bee. Yes. Every day we are having the sessions, every day, 5 to 6. Yeah, sure, Kirtana. All right. So what it says that Galapagos finches. Okay. So Galapagos finches, it is a very typical example of adaptive radiation. Now, what is adaptive radiation? Adaptive radiation is a phenomena where a single ancestor give rises to large number of descendants in a very short duration. So in that short duration, what is basically happening, that the ancestor is evolving into many descendants, not only one or two, many descendants. Okay, in a very short duration. So all the descendants are coming out from the ancestor like a ray. That is why we call it adaptive radiation. Okay. Now, how these different species are coming through, that is because of the adaptations that this individual population groups are going through in order to survive. Any physical barrier, any kind of temporal barrier, so any kind of barrier, okay, which will make the groups not able to breed with each other or exchange the mutations with each other, that will result in the formation of descendant species. Okay, so it has been found out, like Darwin also, when he collected all the species and compared them, so he only concluded that all the species that were found in the Galapagos island, they were very unique, and these species are found only in these islands, not anywhere else in the world. Okay, whereas in the mainland of Africa there were some finches which are related to this. Okay, so what was the theory that Darwin gave? That these finches, they are all showing adaptive radiation. That from the mainland finches, some groups, they migrated to this different islands of Galapagos, and then they modified or they mutated. Mutation happened. Okay, and some or the other mutation got selected depending on the environmental pressure that was present in all of these islands. Okay, what kind of environmental pressure was there? Depending on what kind of food is available, what kind of mates are preferred. Okay, so because of that, the different beak patterns and different claw patterns and different sizes of the birds emerged. Okay, and that made the unique species of finches that we find only in those Galapagos islands. So the answer will be option D, that the finches represent an example of adaptive radiation in which beak variation was generated by mutation followed by selection by different seed types. Okay, so this different seed types is nothing but the food source, okay, or the competition that exists for food, right? So if the food source was seeds, right? So the varieties which were having strong thicker beaks, okay, to cleave those nuts or seeds, they will be that will be beneficial for them. Now if the food source is in the form of worms or insects that were dug under the sand or under the ground, then if the birds have this kind of a beak, okay, then it will be helpful for them, because now they can dig out the worm from the sand, right? So that is how, like, with the food, or what is the food situation there, what kind of sources of food are present. So the beaks, the different varieties of beaks and claws, that actually different beaks and different claws were selected, and that resulted in the formation of different species. Next question, again regarding the forelimbs of human and flippers of whales are embryologically homologous structures. Now, this question is typical, specifically a CSIR question previous year. What does the study of homologous structure tell us about evolution? Okay, so there are certain statements given A, B, C, D. So you have to identify which of the following is the correct combination, or which is the combination of statements which is explaining this situation that forelimbs of human and flippers of whale are homologous structures accurately. Right. So let's see each of the statements one by one. You can answer. I'm keeping on the chat box, so you can answer in that time. Okay, so first A, this is an example of adaptive radiation occurred due to similar group of organisms inhabiting different environment. Now this is true. Why? Because humans, they are also mammals, whales are also mammals. So what actually happened is, once the mammals have evolved, okay, then a small group of mammals, they went back to land. They went back to water. Okay, see, life emerged in water. From water, it moved to land, and then after the mammals have evolved, then a small group of mammals, they went back to water. Okay, now their ecosystem changed. The primates, who are the ancestors of humans, they were on the land, so that the environment around them was different. Whereas the group of mammals that migrated to the lands, the environment around, the ecosystem around them were different. Okay, so now different features, they were preferred, right, in different environments. So different features were selected. Okay, so this is for sure an example of adaptive radiation which occurred due to similar group of organisms inhabiting different environments. Okay, so statement A is correct. B, this is an example of divergent evolution occurred due to similar group of organisms inhabiting different environment. Now, what is divergent evolution? So an ancestor, okay, from a common ancestor, if two or more species are diverging. Okay, so this is a divergent evolution. So from the common ancestor, who was a mammal, humans and whales have evolved into different ecosystems. So this is an example of divergent evolution. C says that similar group of organisms with mutations are variations getting naturally selected in different environment. Yes, absolutely correct. These are similar group of organisms, okay, which have mutations and variations that are getting naturally selected in different environment. Okay, and that is why in the bone structure in the previous question we saw that even though the bones are same in humans and whales forearms, but the ratio or the proportion of each of these bones are very much different. Okay, our bones of the hands are made in such a way that so that we can grab things, whereas the whales, the four limbs or the bones which are present in the forearms are making it like a flipper, which will help the whale swim better and faster. Okay, so that is the same thing, the same bone arrangement is there anatomically, but it modified because of different selection pressure in different environment. Okay, so statement C is also correct. D says that this is an example of convergent evolution. Now convergent evolution is wrong, because convergent evolution is two unrelated species, if they produce similar feature, then it is called as convergent evolution. Okay, like if you have shark, which is a fish, and you have dolphin, which is a mammal. Okay, now since they both have streamlined bodies, they both have the fins or the flippers. Okay, they are very good swimmers. So if you compare these features, so what does that mean? That they are having similar structures. Okay, but these are not anatomically similar, they are similar. These are the structures having similar function. Okay, so unrelated group of organisms, when they are producing similar features, then it is called as convergent evolution. Okay, because the evolutionary lines are converging, they are joining with each other. Okay, so here for human and whale, it is not convergent evolution, it's a divergent evolution. So answer will be option 1. So we have 1 minute, last 1 minute, and quick one question. So, given below is a graphical representation of changes in morphological features over a period of geological time scale, where population A accumulates heritable morphological changes and give rise to a distinct species B. Population B splits into a distinct species B2. Which of the above lineages represent the pattern of speciation by cladogenesis? So previously we had a question of anagenesis. So we saw that when A without any divergence changes to a descendant species B, then it is anagenesis. But when B, if a species splits into two or more descendant species, then it will be called as cladogenesis. So out of the lineages that are mentioned here, so which is cladogenesis? So lineage 1, A is changing simply to B. So that means it is anagenesis. There is no branching. Very simple. Remember, cladogenesis means branching. Okay. So the opposite will be true for anagenesis. Okay. So if B is splitting into two here, fine, then lineage 2 will be cladogenesis. So answer is, which is cladogenesis? Option C. All right. So this is how it looks. So this is anagenesis, where in a single line evolution is happening without any divergence. Whereas if it diverges, then it will be cladogenesis. All right, guys. So with this, we come to the end of this session. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we request all of you to tell all your friends and everyone who is preparing for CSIR exams to participate in this free sessions in YouTube, and that will help you in your exam preparation. Thank you, everyone. Till the next time we meet. Bye bye, and take good care of yourself. And please keep on revising. And this is our Watson scholarship. Take a look at it. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Have a good evening.